Hey everybody, my name is Jason Bent, and I'm starting this channel to kind of help get people that are trying to get into woodworking, maybe answer some questions that they might have and share my experiences that I've had over the last couple of years. I have not been a professional woodworker for any amount of time in my life. I actually got into it a couple of years ago. My actual sole job is I'm an active duty service member for the Army and currently teach ROTC at a university. So basically what happened for me was I ended up moving to North Georgia from Columbus. And my wife said to me before we moved up here, like, hey, when we move up there, I'd really like you to build a farmhouse table. So I said, well, okay, well, I don't have any tools. I'm gonna have to buy some stuff. And because I really didn't have any experience in woodworking prior to that, other than, you know, shop class in junior high, I went online and, I Googled build a farmhouse table, like most people probably would early on. So when I did that, the page that came up was a guy named DIY Pete, which I'm sure that most of you, if you're watching YouTube videos, are probably familiar with who DIY Pete is and many of the other people. So I watched his video that he has. It's about 20 to 30 minutes long, very informative. And on it, it's a basic farmhouse table using, construction grade lumber from Lowe's or Home Depot. And in it, it says, hey, here's the tools that you need. One of those tools being a miter saw, a Craig jig, for pocket holes, and some other random stuff, clamps, wood glue, all that stuff. So anyways, I had zero. So I went out and bought that stuff before we moved, and we put it in storage. And then when it was time to move up here, we moved everything up. And I was operating out of my garage, which at the time we were renting because I didn't know how long I was going to be up here for the Army. So I got all that stuff out. The first thing I actually made was a workbench. I really enjoyed making the workbench. I used all the same tools. So then from there, I ended up building the farmhouse table following that video that DIY Pete made. A very good video, very informative, and it kind of walks you through the process. So that's what I ended up doing. I made that table, and from that moment forward, I was absolutely hooked. All I wanted to do was build stuff. And prior to moving up here, I was a pretty avid bass fisherman, and I had a bass boat. And the house that we actually got, the reason we got it where we did is because it's so close to the lake. It actually got to a point where I was in the shop building stuff so much that I ended up having to sell the bass boat. So, which is sad. Hopefully one day I'll get another one. But I made that table, and I was just like, you know what? I want to continue to do this, and I want to build more stuff. So of course I, went on Pinterest, and I found all kinds of great things, and I made a sofa table that we wanted, or an entryway table. I made a sliding door console. I made a coffee table. I made a little coffee holder. I made a bunch of just little things that I found on Pinterest. Again, using lumber from Lowe's or Home Depot, easily available stuff. And then one day my wife and I were like, hey, you know what? This table is just way too big for our dining room. So let's make something smaller. So I said, okay, well, we'd have to sell this first. So we ended up selling it to a friend of hers. And again, I hadn't sold a single piece up to this point. So we sold it to a friend of hers, and we agreed that, hey, let's just sell it for what it's going to cost for the materials for the next project that we wanted to build. And because I wanted to build a table that had an oak tabletop and some nice turn legs and everything, I think the price came out to like $600 for all the materials for the next table. So we sold it to her for $600 with the 2 benches. She was ecstatic and she loved it. And then I went ahead and bought the stuff to make the other table. Went out, bought the stuff, made the other table, learned a bunch. And then we started talking to the friend of ours that bought the table, and people kept coming over to the house and asking where you got this table from, where you got this table from. So I was like, oh, cool, just, tell them where you got it from, tell them you got it from me. And at the time I had zero ambitions on building furniture for people for money. So a little bit of time went by. She ended up, purchasing a new house. around the time that we sold her the table. So my wife and I discussed it, and I decided, hey, I want to build something, so I'm gonna build her an entryway table for her house. It's kind of similar to one of the ones that I built, but I wanted to do something different so I could continue to get practice. So I built her another table that kind of matched the original table that she bought for the house, and she loved it. So then I started thinking, you know what, maybe this would be a, legitimate business opportunity for me to start building furniture for other people. So I decided to make a coffee table. And I made a coffee table, and the coffee table just happened to match the same style that the other two pieces that I built for her were. And so we were over at her house delivering the entryway table, and I told her, say, yeah, I'm actually working on a coffee table right now that actually matches these. I'm getting ready to put it on Facebook. And she said, don't do that. I want to buy it. Didn't even see it. She said, don't do it. I want to buy it. So I said, okay. So I ended up selling her that coffee table as well. So she has 3 pieces that I built. And after that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could advertise on Facebook. So of course, what did I do? I went on Facebook Marketplace, and I decided to post woodworking services on Facebook Marketplace. And it was incredible how quickly things changed for me from doing that. Now, I posted that and received about 200 messages in a 48-hour period. Out of those 200 messages, I received 0 orders. And what I quickly found out about marketing on Facebook, specifically Facebook, is people that are on Facebook Marketplace aren't necessarily looking for somebody that builds high-priced custom furniture. They're looking for somebody that builds the least expensive option custom furniture for the most part. Now, there are people out there, obviously, that are looking for better stuff, and they use Facebook or other social media platforms to find those things, and it can be an invaluable resource to you, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But for the most part, everyone was like, well, I can go to IKEA and buy it for this, or I can get this person to make it for this much. Okay. The other thing that I found is that there's about 200 other people that do the exact same thing in my area. Now, when I say the exact same thing, I mean they will build furniture for you. And the most common thing that they build is farmhouse tables or farmhouse or rustic style pieces, because that's the big thing around here in my area in North Georgia. And that's fine. But there are people that are willing to build a farmhouse table for $350. And the reason that they're able to do that is probably because they go to Lowe's and Home Depot and purchase construction grade lumber and build tables out of it, throwing it together with pocket screws. I'm not saying that there's not a place for that. There is. My biggest thing though is, people are going to get what they pay for. So when I started, I did the same thing. And again, that was just 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, that I started doing that. And I, just like anybody else, would go to Lowe's and Home Depot and buy 2x4s and 2x6s and 2x8s and 10s and 12s and whatever. And I would throw stuff together, and I would use pocket holes for a lot of that. And it's a learning experience as you go through it. So, a lot of you that are watching this are probably in that category right now, and that's fine. Anybody that tells you that, hey, I started out woodworking and I was doing mortise and tenon joinery the first table that I built, is probably lying, because you have to start somewhere. And for most people, you're going to start with whatever's readily available to you online. And what's readily available to you online is building things quick and easy, less expensive, by going to Lowe's and Home Depot and purchasing a Craig jig and a miter saw and putting stuff together. And that's fine, that's great. I have stuff that's in my house that has been built with pocket holes and has been built with construction grade lumber from Lowe's and Home Depot, and it's been 2 years now, and it looks just as good today as it did the day that I built it. So are there things that I notice about it now that make me unhappy? Absolutely and obviously, because as you get better, you're going to see things that are so minuscule that somebody else that you're building furniture for would never notice in a million years, but you see it and you go, you know, that's not what I'm about. That's not what I like. I screwed this up. I screwed that up. And you're going to mess stuff up, and it's fine. So now, you know, fast forward a year and a half, 2 years later, and now I have a 24 by 20, you know, workshop that's fully furnished, with probably a lot more, to be honest with you, a lot more than I need at this point. But I'll talk more about that in maybe other videos. But I'm booked solid, you know, through the month of January or February. So I mean, I don't have to post on social media anymore. Word of mouth spreads. I don't have to post on social media specifically for the purpose of trying to get customers. What I do now is I use my Instagram page and my Facebook page, and I post stuff. And because I, you know, have so many people that I know on there and other people following me, that of course spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads. And now I'll just get random emails and phone calls from people saying, hey, I saw your post, or hey, you know, you built something for somebody that I know, and I'm interested in having this built. And I'm able to stay busy to where I can't take on new customers, because if I do, they're going to be waiting until, you know, March or April or May, you know, 3, 4, or 5 months for pieces of furniture, which is great, which is what I want my end result to be when I do retire. But right now, because this is not my sole job, this is really just something that I do on the side. I have to be careful about what jobs I take on and what jobs I decide to turn down. So, but I mean, in all reality, you know, 2 years have gone by and I have this, you know, woodworking shop, and I stay busy now. And it all happened because one day I just decided to build a farmhouse table, and you know, here I am building stuff for people. I very rarely ever do farmhouse tables anymore. Building stuff for people that have heard about me or have talked to somebody else that had something built by me. And it's really not hard. It's very, very, very easy. And because I've been able to build so many things and I get time to practice on my own furniture and my own shop stuff that I've learned, and I'm still learning on a daily basis. There's not a single project that I've done that I haven't learned probably 10 things. I mean, right here is a dog bowl holder that just happens to be a small thing that I build that people really like. And I learned something new on that one, and that's the third one that I've built. But each time I learn better ways to do stuff. Right here I've got a table that I'm doing for somebody using hairpin legs, which I've never done before, and I know it's becoming very popular. Kind of takes the fun out of it, you know, you just bolting legs to a table. But this actually is not a tabletop. It was actually a plaque that one of my cadets received at a competition, and she asked me if I could turn it into a table for a small amount of money. So I said, you know, I can do it for you, you know, for free. You don't have, there's, you know, no money involved. So I went ahead and built, and I'm building that now. So it's just, you know, little stuff that I've learned a lot about. You know, every time I build a table or glue up a tabletop, I learn a better way to glue up a tabletop. And now, sure, you know, the more you learn, the more money you spend. A perfect example is, you know, clamps. You know, you glue up a tabletop, obviously you need clamps, and you learn that, hey, I probably need more clamps. So, you know, you go out and spend that money and get those tools. But so here's the original reason that I ended up deciding to start doing this for money, was because when I was bass fishing, I spent a lot of money, and I fished tournaments and stuff, but you know, very rarely did I ever place in the money, especially when I moved up here to North Georgia and started fishing Lake Lanier, and there's people that have been fishing here their entire life. So it's really no contest. I was spending a lot of money, but not making any money. With woodworking, it's completely different. I'm spending a lot of money, but I'm making a decent amount of money to pay for those things. So my original goal was, hey, I don't want to use my personal bank account to purchase any tools, and I need more tools. So if I made a table for $900 and it cost $450 in materials, I now use that additional money that I had and I put it back into my shop. So whether it was I went out and bought $550 worth of clamps, or I went out and bought a better miter saw, or I went out and bought a jigsaw, because there's times that I wish I had a jigsaw, but I didn't have one. So now I have a jigsaw. Or I need a better shop vac, or I need a dust collection system, or I need better drills, or whatever it was. I used money that I made from projects to purchase those items. Now, hopefully, I say hopefully, it's going to get to a point where there's not a need for me to use profit on tools. I have not hit that point yet, because it seems like every time I build something and I get a little bit of money, I end up upgrading. But I think I'm at the point now where the majority of the stuff in my shop is at the point where it's probably, there's not really a need to upgrade from that. So anyways, that's my 2 year, less than 2 year story of how I got to where I am now. I'll post other videos later on. But again, I've had a lot of inspiration from guys on YouTube like Jay Bates, Guys Woodshop, DIY Pete. I could go on and name a ton more. But anybody that's watching this video or taking the time to watch this video has probably seen a lot of those people. So I'll post more videos, and it's just really to help out people that are kind of trying to get into it, to maybe get to the same place that I've gotten to now, just based off the knowledge and experience that I've gained over the last year and a half, 2 years. So I'll post videos when I can. So if you want, subscribe to my page, like my channel, and the next video that I'll post will be a shop tour of my shop currently, which I've done in the past on other local woodworking or Facebook woodworking pages, which I find actually to be probably one of the most beneficial things that I've done on YouTube. Specifically Jay Bates or the Wood Whisperer. They have tons and tons and tons and tons of people's shops, and when I do my shop video, the majority of the stuff that I have in my shop, or where it's placed, or why I have it there, and I'll talk about that in the video, is basically because of those videos that I was able to see, and I'm able to, move things around based off other people's shops to where I finally found something that I liked. And we'll discuss why I have it there in those videos, excuse me. But anyways, more videos to come. I appreciate it, and I will see you soon.